With the global craziness, we found out recently that it has become a little bit more difficult to order seeds from some of our favorite seed companies. One reason is because some of them weren't able to have all their full staff on hand. And with that, it's made me think even more about saving our own seed. There could be a time when it could be long term where we can't get seeds. And to grow your own food, you have to have seed. So we're deciding we're going to start saving seeds here on a regular basis. Continue to support companies like Baker Creek, which I'm supporting right here, but at the same time saving seed for ourselves, so just in case we can't purchase from them, we're still having the seed that we need to grow food. One crop that we grow a lot of is arugula. We sell it separately as loose leaves, and we put it together, add it to a mix with lettuce and some other things for a salad mix. So we really grow a lot of it, and since we do, we decided this whole bed here was arugula, to let it go to seed so we could save the seed from it. And right down here, Lacie is getting a head start with harvesting the seed pods. How's it coming along? Getting started?
Yeah, it's coming along. This is like right at the right point where it still needs a little more time to dry, but they're not flying all over the place whenever you're trying to harvest them.
So we have found with harvesting them, you want them to start drying out some. Like you can see here, they're not the vibrant green, but they're turning brown and this reddish color. But then again, you don't want them to dry out too much, because then it'll start, like this one right here.
Watch.
The seeds will start dropping on you and you won't be able to harvest.
They come out really easy once they're dry.
So what we do is we harvest them at the state before it gets really dried out. And then we take them and we can dry them out in the greenhouse to dry them out a little bit more. And
then you take them out of the seed pods, and then you winnow them and get all of the like trashy stuff out, so you're left with good seed.
So since we have this whole bed to do, I can't just stand here and just chatter away. I'm gonna get my hands in here and start helping her out. Alright, got some seed pods there.
Yeah, these aren't necessarily the ones you want in your garden. Although this is vetch, it has really pretty purple flowers, and I'm fairly sure it is a nitrogen fixer. A lot of people will use this for a cover crop during the winter. So, and I've read that these were actually cultivated at one point to be eaten, but now with all the different other kinds of varieties, they are no longer cultivated. But I have eaten these before.
As we're gradually making progress with reducing weed pressure, unwanted plant pressure, there is benefits to having other things growing in the beds. But part of that, when you're trying to save seed, you also have other seed pods in there as well. Alright, so we're almost done here with pulling out all the stalks with the seed pods for the arugula. And there's still a number of other plants growing in here, all of which we don't know what all of them are, but there's a reason for each plant. Each plant is designed for a specific purpose, whether we realize it or not. And some of them bring nutrients to the surface more readily available for other plants. So even though we're not letting them go to seed, they have grown, and we'll come through next and just weed them out and flame weed them out as well. But it's just neat to think about that each plant has a specific purpose. Sometimes we have to just learn what that purpose is before completely eradicating things. Okay, so there's a number of things that you can do to let them dry out, and what we're going to do is we're letting them dry out right here on this flat surface here, this lid, and just cutting off the ends here so that way they stay on here and they can just dry out here in the greenhouse, which will aid in the drying out process of them.
Yeah, I'm just clipping off the bottom of these stalks so we'll have more room on the table to dry more.
With each plant there's different techniques for harvesting the seeds, but we're going to let these dry out here for a couple days and come back and harvest the seeds.
It was entirely too hot in the greenhouse for me to stand in there and finish cutting these stems off, so I moved out here to the shade. And you know, I'm just sitting here thinking about, I wonder what everyone is doing each day to make sure that they have food security. Are you growing something? Are you saving seeds? Are you supporting your local farmers? You know, it's just something to think about. Like, what am I doing every single day to ensure that I have food security? And one of those ways is saving seeds. And one of our friends that we met at Baker Creek last year, his name is Ben Cohen. We've mentioned him a few times. He has some really great books about seeds and about the history, and he just started a YouTube channel too, and I will link it in the show notes below. But Ben has such a wealth of knowledge on the history of seeds and how to save seeds. Him and his wife do a really great job. So, you know, check them out. Here we go. Cut, cut, cut. And for those of you that have never saved seeds before, I'm excited to show you in a couple days like what these are gonna look like and just how easy it is to save seeds. I think you're really gonna be amazed. So the biggest thing is starting out with good seed and productive plants. You don't want to save seed from plants that are not productive. You know, sometimes you'll have greens that they just bolt right away and go to seed. I don't like to save seeds from those, but this arugula we made several cuttings off of, so it's proven that these were good plants that these seeds came from. So that's why we're saving them. We're laying our seed pods out to dry on a flat surface, but you can also leave them attached to the stem and make them in bundles and tie a string around them and hang them up somewhere where they can dry. That's another option on how you can save seed. We just had so much, we didn't have the room, the hanging space to let them dry that way. So I'm gonna take these that I've cut off and go spread them out so they can dry. So it's been a few days since we left these out here in the greenhouse to dry, and the greenhouse, it's a perfect environment. It's hot, it's dry, and it has dried these seed pods out. So if you look at them right here, they will break off really easy, and actually see the seeds just kind of fall out like that with each one. So, and then you have the little pods, but you have the seeds right there. What I like to do is I like to take the seed pods and do that over a big bowl like this right here, and you can just take them and run your fingers through them. And I'm sure someone else has a better way to do it, but this is how I've done it before. So then there's none left on here. And you know, it can be a big job if you have a lot of seeds to do. And sometimes with different plants, you can take these and put them in a brown paper bag and just beat them in the brown paper bag, or even a bucket, and this might work with a bucket too. And the seeds will just shake loose, and then you'll have them in your brown paper bag or your bucket, and you can pour them out into another container.
But guys, saving seed can really, really be easy. And there's a really good article on saving seeds, and it's from seedsavers.org. And there's a number of points that they bring out in that. And one is that you should know the seeds, know about the plants of the seeds that you're saving. Some seeds, like arugula, are really easy to save. Lettuce is another one that's easy. Radishes can be easy. But then there's other ones that can be a little more complicated, such as your onions and your carrots, because they don't seed within the first year like your arugula and your lettuces. No, they have to go through a cold cycle, and then it won't be until the second season that you're actually able to save seeds. So those are some of the things to keep in mind, but we do encourage you to do so.
And some ones that are even easier to save seeds from are your tomatoes, your squash, you know, those fruits that you eat off of the plant that most of the time you don't eat the seeds. And you can just save those and dry those out, and then you'll have seeds for next year.
And it's also important to mention that you want to go with your open pollinators. It's best if you can go with your heirloom varieties, and make sure you have a good spacing between your plants that are similar, so there won't be any cross-pollination, and you can preserve the quality and characteristics that you're looking to preserve.
And with the open pollinators, that can cross-pollinate. You know, you will get another plant from those last year. It's not going to be exactly like the one you planted, but if it's in an emergency situation, you just save whatever seed you can, and whatever comes of the next year, you know, if you can eat it, then you can eat it.
That's right. The main thing is to be able to produce food that you can eat and your family, so that way you have the necessities of your belly being full.
That's right.
All right, it's getting pretty hot in here, so let's go ahead and carry these in an area that's a little more comfortable to work in, and then maybe you can also show them how to winnow the seeds as well.
I can do that.
So it's going to be a little bit of time before she's able to do the winnowing. So I want to show you guys something real quick in the garden and how I am separating the plants to save seed. On our farm, a majority of our garden is dedicated to growing market garden items to sell to a customer base. And as a result of that, we have certain items that take up long rows. However, for the seeds that we want to save, the plants that we want to continue to grow and save seeds from those plants, we'll take a corner or the ends of a bed and let those plants go to seed and rip out the rest, like we've done here with this kale. This whole bed was filled up with kale before, but we harvested what we're going to harvest, and then we turned this bed over and planted lettuce in it now, but we left the kale that we wanted to gather seeds from right here at the end, at the back of the garden. So as you can see here, they'll shoot off a stalk, which will have flowers, and then the flowers, after the flowers, you'll start seeing seed pods develop like you do right here.
Well, I've only been able to get a small fraction of these seed pods done, and there's so much more to do, and I just can't sit here right now. Plus, some of these still are green, and so I want to let them dry out just a little bit more to make it easier. See, some of these seeds are still even green, and we'll have to let them dry out some as well. Since I have these seeds already out of the seed pod, but they're still in the bowl with the pod, with the holes, I'm gonna go ahead and divide these out and separate them so you can see how many seeds came from just one fraction of all these seed pods. In the past, I have used a fan to winnow the seeds to get rid of all the chaff, all the seed pods, and all the other fluffy stuff that comes along with seeds. But this time, I am going to use a colander to just sift my seeds through, and then we're gonna get all of those extra seed pods out of there. So I just have an extra bowl and my colander, and I'm gonna pour them in. Well, I think these look really good now. So they look pretty clean, and so let's see how many seeds we got. Well, as you can tell, you'll still need to clean up these seeds just a little bit more. But the amount of seeds that we've gotten from just a few plants is amazing. This is enough to plant at least 2 beds of arugula for us. And that means a lot. So we want to encourage you to save seeds. And all you have to do is just save a couple plants, and you will have plenty of seed for yourself and some to give to other people. Now, since some of these seeds are still green, you want to make sure that you don't put them in a plastic bag right away because there's still moisture in that seed. So you want to leave them out until they are totally dried out and they're the same like brown consistent color as the other seeds. But for storing seeds, what you want to do is make sure you keep them in a cool, dry place. And for longer storage, you can even put them in the freezer. Earlier I mentioned our friend Ben Cohen and how he has a couple books on seed saving and the history of seeds, and he just started a new YouTube channel. I'll leave all that information in the show notes below so you can check it out. But I also wanted to know, do you have any history with seeds? Is there seeds that you're growing, a plant that you're growing that has been in your family for generations? If so, I would really like to know about it. I think it's fascinating to learn these things and where seeds come from, because it wasn't until a couple years ago that I even knew that okra originally came from Africa. And I think it's really interesting to know the origins of where certain plants came from. Like I said, storing your seeds is super important, and storing them in the correct environment. Well, since my seeds are not completely dry and we still have some green ones and they need to be dried a little bit more, you can put them in a brown paper bag and they will continue drying out there, but I don't have any right now. So I'm going to use a piece of cloth and then I'm going to tie it shut just so I can have them contained and airflow will still be able to go through there and finish drying out the seeds for me. Well, all I have to do now is take these right here. I'm gonna use my hairband. You can use pretty much anything. A piece of string, whatever, so your seeds won't get out. Wrap them up like this, and I'm just gonna keep them in my kitchen and I'm gonna keep an eye on them, and whenever they get totally dried out, I'm gonna put them in another container and then store them in our grow room with the rest of our seeds. So no matter where you are in your gardening journey, whether you have been gardening for years or this is your very first time, we implore you to save your seeds. Help us to preserve the seeds that we know and protect our future. And that's what you're really doing with seed saving. Well, that's it for this time. See you later, guys.